Hello, my name is Father Ian Duffy. I'm a priest of the Diocese of Hamilton, and over the next 4 sessions we're going to discuss the greatest prayer that we have ever been given, and that of course is the Mass. Many of us go to Mass every Sunday, and yet we still wonder, why do we do what we do? Why is Father wearing that color? What's that thing that Father's saying? Why is this or that so important, and what does it mean to our celebration of the Mass? In this first session, we're simply going to talk very briefly about what the Mass is and talk about how both priest and people prepare to celebrate Holy Mass. The Mass has been called so many different things. The Mass is our greatest prayer, our greatest act of thanksgiving. We call it the Eucharist, and Eucharist itself means thanksgiving. It's been said that the Mass is the most beautiful thing this side of heaven. And of course, the Mass is so beautiful and so important to us because in the Mass, it's not about what we do for God, as in so many other things in our lives, but it's about what God does for us. In the Mass, it is Jesus who acts. Jesus calls us together to give thanks to God. Jesus is the one who is present among us as the principal priest, as the sacrifice that is offered. Jesus is the one who feeds us each and every time we come to Mass with His Word and with His body and blood. The late Cardinal Lustiger, the former Archbishop of Paris, said in a series of talks that he gave on the Mass that we don't come to Mass because we want to. Rather, we come to Mass because we are called there. We are called to come together by God. We're called to come together by God the Father, in the Son, through the power of the Holy Spirit. Now, because the Mass is so important, it's essential that we prepare well for Mass. There is, of course, both remote and proximate preparation for Mass. Remote preparation is that preparation to come to Mass that we do all week long. Proximate preparation is what we actually do just before coming to celebrate Mass together. Now, in our remote preparation, hopefully our entire life is filled with prayer, with trying to live the gospel, with trying to be the best disciples of Jesus Christ that we possibly can. The Second Vatican Council tells us that the liturgy, the Mass, is the source and the summit of our Christian life. It's from the Mass that we draw our strength and our nourishment to be able to live as Catholic Christians. And it is to the Mass, because it is our supreme act of worship, that our entire Christian life is focused. And so we prepare for Mass all week long by reading the Scriptures, by praying, by being the best Christians that we possibly can. But there is a more proximate preparation for Mass as well. What do I do on Sunday morning as I'm getting ready to go to Mass? Hopefully my proximate preparation isn't yelling at the children to come downstairs. Hopefully it's not rushing about to try to get the last bite of breakfast in before I head off to Mass. Hopefully our preparation for Mass is somewhat more prayerful, somewhat more reflective, and a way that really gets us into the spirit in which we are able to come together as a Christian community to celebrate this beautiful act of our thanksgiving to God. Prayer is a wonderful way to begin our preparation for Mass. Pray the readings that you're going to hear at today's Mass. Pray at home, and certainly pray as you come into church. There are some beautiful gestures that we as Catholics make, and we usually make them without even thinking about them as we come into the church. First and foremost, we dip our hand into the holy water and make the sign of the cross. When we do this, we call to mind our baptism. We call to mind our salvation, that we are saved by Jesus on the cross. And we call to mind that we are part of the family of God, that we share in the life of love of the Blessed Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. When we come to our place, we usually genuflect. We lower one knee to the floor, perhaps bow our heads. This is our way, really, of saying hello to God as we come into His house. It's also our way of saying that I acknowledge you, my Lord and my God, as my King and the God, as the one who is in charge of my entire life. And then hopefully we kneel down for a few moments to speak to and to listen to God. It's perfectly okay to greet other people in the church, but first and foremost, we should greet the one who has invited us here. There is a story told of an inscription that was placed on the door of a church in England that says, "Before Mass, talk to God. During Mass, let God talk to you. After Mass, come for coffee and talk to one another." What a wonderful way to think about preparing for and celebrating Mass. Now, as the people are preparing, the priest is also preparing. And for just a few moments, I'm going to talk to you about some of the things that the priest is doing to prepare for Mass that might answer just a few of your questions about why we do or use the things that we do. The priest also is preparing through prayer. The priest is usually preparing fairly early in the morning by reciting the Divine Office, the Liturgy of the Hours, perhaps spending some time before the Blessed Sacrament in prayer for his people and asking God to make him worthy to celebrate these sacred mysteries.